The dichotomy of debt. You've heard all the Dave Ramsey advice, all his standard answers for every single thing. It goes basically like save 1,000, then kill every single piece of debt you have progressively versus whether it's snowball versus staggered type approach to it. And, that is useful. I'm not going to detract from his advice. However, here is where debt can be useful versus not useful, and why Dave Ramsey, that's not a catch-all solution. Even if you look to a lot of his videos, like I have, you note that he talks about 75%, I believe the number is something close to that, of millionaires made are from those sorts of approaches. What he doesn't talk about is talk about the scenarios, the careers that these people are in. If you're making 60,000 a year and you're taking care of a household, let's say you're paying 2,000 a month in rent alone, like half of your entire existence is going to rent. We haven't even gotten into food, which is another substantial expense. So if you want to get into investing in property, for example, you have maybe 5, maybe 10,000. You can't even buy a quarter of a house at that sort of money. So you would have to wait 10, 15, 20 years to buy something substantial. And hopefully, if you want to eventually work towards something passive, you get into a commercial building or something like that. So think about the practicality of that, right? You got to wait 10 years to buy something meaningful to affect your pocket on a passive income side, versus think about the opposite side of the 75%, like 25%, the people that are billionaires, the Elon Musks or the other type of Warren Buffett type people. These sorts of people, they use debt to continue multiplying, to continue scaling. This is the type of guy that could drop $20 million on a lawsuit like it's a walk in the park. And that's because they've gotten to a point of using that dichotomy of debt for them. Now, at the same time, here's another dichotomy there. Billionaires do not use like cash flow, traditional appreciation of value, even selling value in their assets. They do refinancing effectively. What Elon Musk has is, billions of stocks. So he borrows against the stocks. Jeff Bezos is the same thing. He borrows against his stocks, borrows against his real estate. And that effectively puts them in not being able to be taxed because their assets are printing money, essentially. They continue going up in value, and so it's not a taxable event. Of course, they do make cash flows in other ways, but this is all things that Dave Ramsey is not talking about, and understandably so, because not everybody is made to be a billionaire or multimillionaire. But these are things to be aware of, and it's especially key to be aware of your own risk tolerance, your own ability to manage stress well when things go haywire with investments, which they inevitably do. It's not a matter of if, it's a when. How many risk offsets did you put in place? How many investors do you have alongside you in debt, right? These sorts of things, in a way, I'm very blessed that in my 20s, I took on a lot of this risk myself, and I got my, as they colloquially say, my teeth kicked in by many different experiences, fix and flip properties, warehouses, single family rentals. So that experience allowed me to create a lot of risk offsets, but nevertheless, still to this day, there's some surprises that hit me because there's a lot of things out of my control. There's taxes that go up, insurance that goes up, people doing more fraud right out there in the insurance world. So that inherently just brings insurance up. Unfortunately, that's happening here in Georgia. So that's a surprise that I didn't anticipate, where insurance costs are exploding. But all these things, ultimately bringing it back to debt is, what do you want? What do you anticipate as a goal for you? For me, it's being a competitor to Blackstone. And so that requires a lot of capital. And if you study some of these billionaires, like the CEOs of Blackstone or otherwise, these hedge fund, Ares management, you do see that they went into debt and they had a lot of partners, sometimes a few if they had deep pockets, but they made it happen. They were confident, they had a high degree of experience before they went in. And guess what happens when something like a big capital event occurs? Like, for example, did you know Elon Musk was one of the partners in PayPal and other companies like that? Basically, when that big capital event happens, he basically reinvests all of it, just about leaving just chump change for himself to just live. And not everybody's built to do that. And, he went on to invest in Tesla, put all his chips in that card, and there was a high degree of risk that he could have lost everything in numerous years in that effort. And luckily it paid out for him. But imagine all of the blood, sweat, and tears, like literally blood, sweat, and tears. He was in that shop. And not to say that this guy is a hero to me. I think he's really taken a major detour in life. But I'm just saying the dichotomy of debt is something that not everybody's built for. It's, I don't know, the simplest way to break it down, I guess, is you have to have a high degree of pain tolerance too. Because for you to put your chips all on the table like that, you have to be able to follow through, make it happen, execute, and get those returns, not only for you, but for your investors. And also being able to have those difficult conversations when things do not go the right way. And just moving along that path. So let's bring it back to the individual that's making 60 grand a year. Okay, the only way that would work if you wanted to create something passive for yourself later is if you're okay with waiting 10, 20 years to reach something passive. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And another requirement of that, by the way, if you want to try to accelerate it, is working up the career ladder. And that's also okay. But there's also risk there because, I'll give you an example. I worked at Turner Broadcasting. There's guys that work their ways up the ranks. There was one particular CEO that worked at Turner for 20 years, and he just got his CEO-ship. He worked all the way up to CFO, then got the CEO position when Phil Kent left. Within 1 year, AT&T acquired Turner, or was trying to merge. They fired that guy. He resigned, but we all know what happened. They're cutting costs. They're making layoffs happen left and right. So that's a major risk too. You may be making a couple $100,000 progressively if you're working like a maniac in the corporate world. But how do you determine, again, we have a dichotomy here. Where's the risk? Like, you're working up the rungs and making extra money to, go much higher than that 60 grand a year. Maybe you get to 125 a year. And maybe you could buy 1 or 2 properties, maybe even get into a building. But at what cost? Are you creating debt to do it all yourself? Are you bringing in partners? There's no walk in the park solution like a lot of these real estate coaches talk about. It is work. All right. If you're building something, you have to be there pulling those cement blocks with your arms, getting your hands scraped as you pull those cement blocks, getting your hands dirty, whether it's on the career ladder in corporations that I would argue largely don't care about their employees. They just care about 1% returns. And that means, if that means firing 10,000 people for a 1% return, then so be it. Versus trying to create your own thing. And that also requires discernment and time and, It took me about 9 years to leave the corporate space. And, I was still kind of in a weird scenario when I left, because that was even a part of my life for so long, that routine of going, 9 to 5. And then also preparing for just creating something new from scratch, which, again, not everybody's built with. So wanted to just describe that at a high level. And I hope you're having an awesome week. I know it's crazy out there. Please try to manage your stress well as best you can. I'm seeing a lot more car accidents out there in the world as I drive around. So it just really shows whatever's going on in the economy and stuff like that is really affecting people. So just try to keep your head on your shoulders, keep pushing forward, and don't let the enemy win by being distracted, by giving up. Be like Rocky, and get up when you get knocked out, or even if you're about to get knocked out, get up, keep moving forward. And I recently told that to, ironically, a squatter, inadvertent squatter the other day. He basically, somebody that left the property illegally subletted it to him. And so I had to show up and tell him, hey man, you can't be here. And he was just like crushed. He was on the verge of tears, like, oh man, I thought this was legit. And he got defrauded from Facebook. It's a weird scenario. But I told him, hey man, just don't let the enemy win. Keep pushing forward. You'll find something. And that same weekend he found something. And those sorts of things are awesome to be a part of, and gratifying and fulfilling, even though I could have called the cops on him then and there. I kind of felt like let's try to give him a little bit of time and move forward from here and avoid the police being involved and arresting people. And luckily this was one of those times where my discernment and hopefully my God voice speaking through the Holy Spirit kind of dropped something in me to give him a little bit more of a shot. But anyways, whole another distraction. Hope you're doing awesome. Have an amazing weekend. Catch you later.